the world's great novels. Alessandro Manzoni said of his own book, The Betrothed, that it seems sad to him that so pretty a story should remain forever unknown. So he wrote the story some 100 years ago in Italy, and tonight, the NBC University of the Air presents the first installment of a two-part radio edition of The Betrothed, another in the series of books that live, the world's great novels. Not far from a little town near Lake Como in Italy, there ran a number of narrow lanes or mule paths, enclosed by walls that the ancient ivy rendered verdant. Along one of these narrow lanes, on a November evening in the year 1628, Don Abbondio, the curate, was leisurely returning home, his lips repeating of their own accord his evening prayers. Raising his eyes, he suddenly saw, barring the path ahead, two sinister figures, armed with daggers, awaiting him. He saw them exchange glances which plainly expressed, "Here's our man." He made a hasty examination to discover whether he'd offended some great man, some vindictive neighbor. But even in his moment of alarm, the consoling testimony of his conscience somewhat reassured him. And then he came up to them.
Signor Corrado.
Who commands me?
You intend to marry Renzo Tramaglino to Lucia Mondella tomorrow?
That is... you gentlemen are men of the world and know how these things go. Oh, poor curate has nothing to do with them. They patch up their little treaties between themselves and then... well, then they come to us as one goes to the bank to make a demand, and we are servants of the community.
Mark you well. This marriage is not to be performed tomorrow or ever.
But, gentlemen, be so kind as to put yourselves in my place. If the thing depended on me, you see plainly it is no advantage to me.
Come. If the thing were to be decided by prating, you might soon put our heads in a poke. We know nothing about it, and we don't want to know more. A warned man. You understand.
Oh, but, gentlemen, you are too just, too reasonable, I am sure.
You heard us. The marriage is not to be performed, or he who performs it will never repent, because he shall have no time to repent.
The Signor Curato knows the way of the world, and that we don't wish to do him any harm if he will act like a wise man.
Yes, but, gentlemen...
What does your reverence wish us to say to our master, the illustrious Signor Don Rodrigo?
Oh, so that's it. Pray give him my respects.
Be more clear, Signor Curato.
Always disposed to obedience.
Very well. But above all, let not a word be whispered about this notice that we have given you for your good. For it will be the same as marrying them. Good evening, Signor Curato.
But wait.
We have said enough, and you have said enough. Do not forget.
Don Abbondio had not been born with the heart of a lion. From his earliest years he had learned that an animal without claws and without teeth, which nevertheless wanted to remain alive, must veer with the wind. Yea, he was a vessel of fragile earthenware, obliged to journey in company with many vessels of iron. As he hurried home, he thought,
if only that young man Renzo could be dismissed in peace with a mere no, it would be easy. But he will want reasons why I can't marry him. Oh, these young men who fall in love for want of something else to do always want to be married and think nothing of other people.
So it was that amid the tumult of such thoughts, he reached his own door, hastily entered, and to the surprise of Perpetua, his old and faithful servant, locked it.
Mercy! What has happened to you, Master?
Nothing, Perpetua, nothing.
Some misfortune has happened.
Oh, for heaven's sake, when I say nothing, either it is nothing or it is something I cannot tell.
But if you do not tell me, who will take care of your safety? Who will advise you?
Oh, dear. Hold your tongue.
Do you wish me to be obliged to ask here and there what has happened to my master?
For heaven's sake, let us have no brawling. Let us have no noise. It is my life.
Your life?
My life.
Signor, I have always been an affectionate servant to you. And if I wish to know what has happened, sir, it is because of my care for you. Perhaps I can help you and give you good advice.
Oh, if only you could. But how to stand up against the powerful Signor Don Rodrigo, who threatens to have me killed if I perform the marriage ceremony tomorrow for those poor peasants, the youth Renzo and the pretty Lucia.
Don Rodrigo? Oh, what a wretch, what a tyrant, a godless man.
Will you hold your tongue? Do you wish to ruin me altogether?
Well, we were all alone. No one can hear us. But what will you do, sir?
Oh, you see now. You see what good advice this woman can give me. She comes and asks me, what shall I do? What shall I do? As if she were in a quandary and it were my place to help her out.
Well, I could give my poor opinion, but then...
But then, let us hear.
Well, my advice would be that you must tell the Archbishop Cardinal Borromeo. He's a bold-hearted man and will uphold a poor village curato against such a tyrant.
And when the dagger is lodged in my back, will the cardinal dislodge it?
At least you can die like a man.
I have no intention of dying like a man. So hold your woman's tongue.
To proceed with the marriage was a plan on which he did not even expend a thought. To confide what had happened to Renzo, the young bridegroom, was out of the question. Suddenly he remembered that it wanted only a few days till Lent, during which weddings were prohibited. If he could put it off till then, he would have 2 months. And in 2 months, much could happen. So, when the youth Renzo arrived the following morning...
But what has happened, sir?
Oh, first of all, my son, I do not feel well.
I am very sorry. But to marry you, sir, is so soon done and so little fatiguing.
And then,
Then what, Signor Curato?
There are other difficulties.
But what difficulties can there be?
My dear son, do you know how many formalities are necessary to perform a marriage regularly? Now, don't fly in a passion. Alas, when I think of how well off you were until this whim of getting married came upon you.
What talk is this, Signor mio?
Have patience for a few days. A few days are not eternity. Have patience.
And Lucia? What must I say to her?
That it has been an oversight of mine, and that before concluding the marriage, it is my duty to certify that there is no impediment.
And what will all our friends say, who have been invited to the wedding?
Lay all the fault on me. Tell them I have made a blunder through too much good nature. Now, can I say more? Come now, 1 more week.
And after that?
Then I shall marry you and your pretty Lucia.
Very well, Signor. I'll be patient for 1 more week, but not for longer.
Leaving with a heavy heart, Renzo could not help but sense that some mystery lay behind the priest's conduct. The youth was on the point of turning back to oblige him to speak more plainly when he saw Perpetua a little way before him entering the garden.
Good morning, Perpetua. I had hoped we should all be happy today.
As heaven wills, my poor Renzo.
Explain to me better why the Signor Curato cannot or will not marry us today.
Is it likely I know my master's secret? All I say is that it's a bad thing to be born poor, my dear Renzo.
Is it for a priest to bear hardly with the poor?
If he does wrong, it is because of some wretches in this world.
Huh?
Overbearing tyrants, men without the fear of God.
Oh.
Wait, where are you going?
I'm going back.
Wait, now I've said nothing, even on the rack. Nothing would come from my mouth. Wait, Renzo, wait.
Now I have you.
Eh? What new thing is this?
Who is this tyrant who is unwilling that I should marry Lucia?
What? What is that?
Ah, Perbacco, everybody knows my affairs except myself. What is his name? I will know it.
Who has told you?
No more trickery now. Speak.
Do you wish me to be killed?
I wish to know what I have a right to know.
But if I speak, I'm a dead man. Surely I'm not to trample out my own life.
Then speak.
Promise never to tell.
I promise to do an ill deed if you don't tell me at once.
It is Don Rodrigo.
Oh, the dog! How has he done it?
To force from my lips my own ruin, and yours that I tried to conceal from you in prudence for your own good.
Well, put your hand to your heart and think whether in my case...
And now that you know, how much wiser are you? Except to know that ruin hangs over us. Ruin, my son.
Renzo hurried home, without knowing what he would do, but with a mad longing to do something strange and terrible. This overbearing act of Don Rodrigo could have no motive but a lawless passion for Lucia. The youth's heart panted for murder. But he remembered that Don Rodrigo's home was a fortress guarded within and without, and that he himself was but a poor and powerless peasant. He ran the last few steps to Lucia's home and sought her.
Lucia! Lucia! Oh, it is all up for today, and God knows when we can be married.
What? Oh, has it come to this point?
Then you know it?
Oh, indeed, too well. But to this point...
What do you know about it? Oh, wait, here comes your mother.
For shame, Renzo. Making Lucia cry on her wedding day.
Don Rodrigo has stopped our wedding.
Don Rodrigo?
Yes?
But he doesn't even know my daughter.
Yes. Last week, he and another gentleman on the way home from the spinning. They tried to speak to me, but I didn't answer, but hurried on. And I heard them say one to the other, "I'll lay you a wager." And then they laughed.
Oh, the wretch! The murderer! This is the last deed that assassin shall do?
No. God is on the side of the poor. How can we expect him to help us if we do wrong ourselves? Let us go far off so that this man will hear no more about us.
But we are not yet man and wife, and the curato refuses to marry us. Oh, there must be justice somewhere.
In their despair, they turned to Father Cristoforo, a Capuchin monk, who, although under the law he could not marry them, yet declared that he would go and reason with Don Rodrigo.
Well, how can I obey you, Father Cristoforo?
I come to propose to you an act of justice and to supplicate a deed of mercy.
Don't you know that when fancy takes me to hear a sermon, I can go to church like other people?
I am concerned for an innocent young girl, but not more for her than for you, Don Rodrigo.
Well, since you seem to think I can do so much for this person...
One word from you, Don Rodrigo, will do all.
Well, advise her to come here, Father, and put herself under my protection. She shall want for nothing, as I am a gentleman.
Under your protection?
Certainly.
Woe be unto you that you make me such a proposal. You fill up the measure of your iniquity, and I no longer fear you.
How are you speaking to me, Father?
I speak to you as one who is forsaken by God.
You are droll, Friar.
You will see whether the justice of God can be restricted by the walls of your castle and your 4 guards at the gate. Think you that God has made a creature in his image to give you the delight of tormenting her?
How dare you threaten me?
The heart of Pharaoh was hardened, like yours. But God knew how to break it. Lucia is safe from you. I do not hesitate to say so, though a poor friar. And as for you, listen what I predict to you. A day will soon come...
Get out of my sight, you coward rascal!
I will get out of it. But a curse is suspended above you.
Fearing Fearing the designs of the nobleman, Father Cristoforo arranged that Lucia should seek sanctuary in a famous convent far to the south, and that same night she left. As for the youth Renzo, the village was no longer safe for him, and he left for Milan, torn at heart, but sustained by the forlorn hope that, in God's good time, he and Lucia would yet become man and wife. Meanwhile, Don Rodrigo, whose passion for Lucia became even more inflamed now that she seemed beyond his grasp, determined to seek the help of a certain notorious nobleman, Count Rivola. Rivola was not only a man superior to most in riches, retinue, and intrepidity, but he was a man who had secured himself by the force of crime, a man who led an independent life on the confines of his estate in an impregnable castle. To do what was forbidden was with him a passion. He felt that to draw back from Don Rodrigo's petition to kidnap Lucia from the convent was for him to forfeit his deadly reputation. Thus she was kidnapped by one of Count Rivola's assassins, a man named Nebio, who, having seen she was secured in one of the rooms of the gloomy castle, came to render his report.
Well, Nebio?
Everything went exactly right. The girl was in the garden, and we caught her. Only 2 screamed, and nobody attracted by them. The coach was ready, and the horses swift, and nobody met with her.
But what?
But I would rather have had to stab her in the back, without hearing her speak, without seeing her face.
What do you mean?
I mean, sir, that I feel too much compassion for her.
You, Nebio?
Yes, Count.
You who have killed how many?
I've never kept a reckoning.
You who are my right hand? You?
Yes.
Compassion. What do you know of compassion? What is this compassion?
It is something like fear. Once it takes possession of you, you are no longer a man.
You know, Nebio, you become very interesting. You excite my curiosity. Let me hear a little of what she did to arouse your compassion.
Weeping and praying, and her eyes.
Get out of my sight with all your softness.
Yes, no, Signor.
Left alone, Count Rivola, the supreme criminal, stood with his gaze fixed upon a spot on the floor, where the moonlight entering through a lofty window traced out a square of pale light. He thought,
well, the girl must have some angel to protect her. Compassion in Nebio. And who is this peasant girl that an animal like Don Rodrigo burns up for? Compassion in Nebio. Very well, I shall see for myself.
Hastening through the castle, he ascended a long flight of stone stairs to the south tower. He knocked on the door for the old woman in whose charge he had arranged Lucia to be left.
Who is it? Who is there?
Open the door.
Oh, yes, master. Right away.
Where is she?
There, in the corner, master.
Who bid you throw her there like a bag of rags, you uncivil old beldam?
She chose it herself. I've done my best to encourage her. She can tell you so herself, but she won't mind me.
Get up. Get up. I'll do you no harm, and I can do you some good. Get up!
Here I am. Kill me if you will.
I've told you I'll do you no harm.
Courage, courage. If he himself tells you he will do you no harm.
Why make me suffer the agonies of hell? What have I done to you?
Perhaps they've treated you badly. Tell me.
Treated me badly. They have seized me by treachery, by force. Why? Why am I here? I'm a poor, harmless girl. In the name of God.
They who cannot defend themselves, who have not the strength to do it, must always bring forward God. What do you expect by this word?
Oh, Senor, what can a poor girl like me expect? Except that you should have mercy upon me. God pardons so many sins for one deed of mercy. Let me go. For charity's sake, let me go. Bid them take me to a church. I will pray for you all my life.
Come, take courage. Have I done you any harm? Have I threatened you?
Oh, no. I see that you have a kind heart and feel some pity for an unhappy creature. God will reward you for it. Finish your deed of mercy. Set me free. Set me free.
Tomorrow morning I'll see you again. Come, in the meantime, be of good courage. You, old woman!
Yes, Your Honor.
Persuade her to eat something and let her lie down in the bed to rest. Encourage her, I say, and keep her cheerful. Beware that she has no cause to complain of you.
Yes, Your Grace.
Departing from Lucia, Count Rivola hastily retired to his chamber, and the image of her face seemed to haunt his mind. Seemed to say, "Thou shalt not sleep."
That fool of a Davia was right. One is no longer a man. Am I no longer a man? What has happened? What is there new in all this? The devil has got possession of me. Didn't I know before now that women always weep and implore for mercy? Hey, but men do that sometimes when they've not the power to rebel. Have I never heard women cry before? And yet she is here and there's yet time. I can yet say to her, go and be happy. Can yet see her beautiful face change. I can even say, forgive me. I ask forgiveness, and of a peasant girl? Away. These are fooleries which have many times passed through my mind. These too will take flight.
But they did not take flight. On the contrary, they grew more intense. And backward, from year to year, from bloodshed to bloodshed, from crime to crime, Count Rivola traced his life in all its monstrousness. And while he was thus drearily engaged, above him in the room of her captivity, Lucia was on her knees in fervent prayer.
O most holy Virgin, thou to whom I have so often recommended myself, and who hast so often comforted me, thou who hast borne so many sorrows, and art now so glorious, thou who hast wrought so many miracles for the poor and afflicted, help me. Bring me out of this danger. Bring me safely to my mother, O Mother of our Lord. And I vow unto thee to continue a virgin. I renounce forever my unfortunate betrothed, that from henceforth I may belong only to thee.
And so the long night passed. And then at dawn, Count Rivola heard the distant chiming of bells. And from his window, he could see a throng of people hastening into the village at the bottom of the valley. Upon inquiry, he learned that Cardinal Borromeo, Archbishop of Milan, had arrived that morning.
All this gladness because of one man? Everybody joyful at the sight of him? What has this man about him to make so many people happy? Some money, perhaps, that he'll distribute at random among them. But they can't all be going for alms. Perhaps he'll say to them a consoling word or two. Oh, if he only had words for me, words that might bring me peace. Why shouldn't I go too? Why not? I will go to talk to him face.
Entering the village, Count Rivola found the crowd assembled outside the curate's house. The Count's name spread through the throng like a chill, and they fell back as though anxious to get beyond his very reach. This man, this notorious character, wished to see the Cardinal?
What is it, Federico?
A strange visitor, my noble lord. Strange indeed.
Who?
No less a personage than Count Rivola.
Let him come in directly.
But, your grace, surely you must be aware who he is. An outlaw, the most infamous man in all Italy.
And is it not therefore a most happy circumstance that such a man should feel a wish to come and seek me?
But he is a desperate and dangerous character.
Let him be admitted directly. He has already waited too long.
Yes, my noble lord. You may come in now, Count Rivola.
Yes. What a welcome visit is this. And how thankful I am to you for coming, even though it brings me reproof.
Reproof?
Yes, for allowing you to come to me, when so often and for so long a time, I might and ought to have come to you myself.
You come to me? Do you know who I am? Did they deliver in my name rightly?
You are Count Rivola, and there is no one I would have desired more to receive and embrace if I had thought I might hope for such a thing. Well, you have good news to tell me, and you'd keep me so long expecting.
Good news? I have hell in my heart. What good news can you expect from such as I am?
That God has touched your heart and would make you his own.
God. If I could see him, if I could hear him, where is this God?
You ask that. Do you not feel him in your very heart, agitating you, never leaving you at ease, yet drawing you forward, presenting to your view a hope of tranquility and consolation?
Oh, surely there is something within me that oppresses and consumes me. But if this be God, and if he is such as they say, what can God do with me?
The world has long cried out against you. But when you yourself rise up to condemn your own past, then indeed God will be glorified. What can God do with you? Pardon you, save you, finish in you the work of redemption.
If it were only true.
It is true. And you must suffer me to press your hand, which will repair so many wrongs and dispense so many benefits.
May God forgive me.
He is infinite in his mercy. Great and good God, what have I done that thou shouldst make me worthy of being an instrument in so joyful a miracle?
Yes, now I understand what I am, and I shudder at myself. And yet, God is indeed great. God is indeed good, for I feel a joy such as I've never known before.
You bring great joy to me also.
How many wrongs I have committed for which now I can but mourn. Yet there is one which I can break off in its very midst.
What is that, my son?
A young girl I've kidnapped, who's being held in my castle to be given to another.
Now you are indeed blessed. For God makes you capable of becoming the instrument of safety, the one whom you intended to do.
Thus it was that Lucia, by a miracle of God, found herself set free. But other and more terrible dangers lay in the path ahead of her, menacing both herself and her betrothed, the youth Renzo. Next week we shall see how they were to achieve the destiny that awaited them.
The Betrothed by Alessandro Manzoni is one of the world's great novels, brought to you each week by the NBC University of the Air. Listen next week to the final episode of The Betrothed, and remember that this and countless other great books are to be had in your local public library. Herbert Gorman's Handbook of the World's Great Novels is a valuable aid to the enjoyment of these broadcasts. Just send 25 cents with your request to World's Great Novels, Post Office Box 30, Station J, New York 27, New York. That's Post Office Box 30, Station J, New York 27. The Betrothed was adapted for radio by Frederick Schlick. The music composed by Emil Soderstrom, the orchestra directed by Bernard Berquist. The entire production is under the direction of Homer Heck. Bob McKee was the narrator. Renzo was played by Charles Mountain, Lucia by Joyce McCluskey, Abbondio by Arthur Peterson, Perpetua by Geraldine Kay, Cristoforo by George Poogie, Count Rivola by Duke Watson, The Cardinal by Philip Lord, Rodrigo by Tony Paris, and Yese by Hilda Graham, Federico by Cliff Norton, and Nebio by Harlan Emsley. This is David Garraway. The program has come to you from Chicago and is a presentation of the National Broadcasting Company and its independent affiliated stations. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.